Forgotten Sunrise, Chapter 18, Hands. When she returns to the castle, Sunset Shimmer asks the concierge where the music room was for practice. She was directed to a medium-sized room on the second floor, with smaller individual practice rooms which were all lined with acoustic foam padding. It reminded her of Canterlot High's band room, except surprisingly more organized than she almost always saw the school's. She spotted a small 20-watt amp that looks like it wasn't being used and picked it up, taking it over to the practice room all the way on the right. She set the amp down, plugged it in, and then gently set her guitar case on the floor. She unlatched it, taking out the Sunburst Flying V guitar. She went into a sitting position and put the strap around her shoulder, cradling the neck in her left hoof. There was something she hadn't just been thinking about the past few days. She remembered writing to Twilight earlier on in her senior year about what would be okay to bring back with her, and how she would approach playing guitar as a unicorn. The princess had suggested a few ideas.
Well, when your friendship games over there ripped open the portals all over, Lyrae, a friend of mine, got a pretty good look at the bipedal forms over there, and immediately became fascinated with hands. I'm no guitar player, but if you think it would take too long to relearn as a unicorn, maybe you could talk to her. I hear she's working on a conjuration spell that gives her magic hands.
Talking to Lyra Heartstrings now was quite impossible, obviously. But with all the experiences she had with hands, some conjured digits couldn't be that hard to put together. There were 3 forms of spellcasting that she had learned about while in Celestia's school: verbal, motion, and mental. All spells used at least 1, and some used 2 or all 3. They depended on the nature of the magic and its use. Almost all conjuration spells were verbal and mental, as you had to clearly picture what you wanted to create out of thin air. Getting as relaxed as she could in her sitting position, Sunset took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to concentrate and clear her mind.
Creo,
she whispered, as energy began to course through her horn. She thought back to her bipedal form, sitting up in her room, getting ready to practice, reaching for the neck of her guitar. She felt the weight on the guitar strap shift slightly as she opened her eyes, and didn't let her mild surprise break her concentration, as she saw 2 transparent disembodied hands, the left holding the guitar neck, and the right one resting by her hoof by the pickups. Taking another breath, she reached down into her case, with her right hand floating down and coming back up with her carbon fiber guitar pick that Flash had given her. Having a third pair of limbs that were ethereal and floating was quite surreal, almost like being in both forms at once. Over the next several seconds, she began to recall all the frets, fingerings, and chords for all the songs she played with her friends. Pip stepped off of the elevator out onto the second floor. After knocking on the guest suite that Sunset was staying in and not receiving any answer, she checked with the castle concierge. She informed her that their guest was directed to the music room. She walked up to the double doors and pushed them open. She immediately heard the faint electrical cords coming from the practice room in the back corner, and saw the back of Sunset's mane through the window. The unicorn was grooving to the music, and her horn was glowing with her orange aura of magic. Crossing the room, she stood by the window and saw Sunset with her instruments, but it didn't look like she was doing anything with her hooves. Pip tapped gently on the window to announce her presence, and the unicorn turned her head to see her visitor. With a smile, Pip opened the door and stepped halfway inside. Sunset turned to her completely, and Pip's eyes widened. Sunset's expression was entirely elated, and her instrument hung by a strap around her neck and shoulder, with glowing claws holding the long wooden neck and holding a small thin plectrum down in front of the strings on the body.
That's new,
Pip said, and Sunset saw the Pegasus was unable to pull her eyes away from her conjured digits.
Right, some explanation probably. These are hands. The world I was in was filled with bipedal creatures that had these. I thought I would have to spend months relearning how to play with telekinetic magic, but this is so much better. I see,
Pip replied, trying to wrap her head around it.
Your music sounds full of energy. I'd love to hear more of it soon. I'm actually rehearsing most of tomorrow for a concert. Would you be interested in maybe joining us?
Pip asked. The hands holding the plectrum floated down to the open instrument case and deposited it in a small compartment. Then both dissipated, the glow around her horn fading momentarily before she took the entire instrument in her magic, and slowly levitated off of herself. She set it down gently into the case, before closing the lid and latching it closed.
Well, it's more than just me. I played in a band. And I only have a 6-string, not a bass. And that's generally required. Although, you could probably substitute in a keyboard for the bass parts. And I've seen some of those around here. When I get back to my suite, I'll dig out some of the sheet music and you can take a look at it.
The princess smiled and gave the unicorn a nod.
Sounds great. Now I'm famished. Let's go get something to eat.
Chapter 19. The Poning Pony Princess. During her protege days, dinner without Celestia was frequently whatever Sunset wanted it to be, and it just involved a trip down to the dining hall before 9 p.m., when the cooking staff retired for the night. But here, she was a guest, and she imagined that the technological advances Equestria had made meant it wasn't even going to involve a trip to the kitchen.
If we're talking room service here,
Sunset began, as she walked alongside Pip to her streaming room.
Just as long as that isn't every meal here. If you've got a decent kitchen, let me have at it one of these times. I make some mean hash browns for breakfast. Oh, sounds like a plan. You can make us whatever you like for breakfast before rehearsal tomorrow. But for now, how's pizza and gaming sound?
Pip asked as they turned the corner.
Sounds perfect,
the unicorn replied.
I'm hearing that there's a development team in Zephyr Heights that's designing an adventure game about a post-apocalyptic Equestria. And they're basing a fair amount of it based on what Sunny has gathered for the museums. Think it's called Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that. I'm looking forward to it.
They came to the third door on the right, and Pip pressed her right hoof into the metallic pad next to the door. The LED light went from red to green, and the door unlocked, with the Pegasus immediately turning the knob and opening it up.
Come on in, and behold my gaming abode,
Pip told her. Sunset stepped through the doorway, and her eyes immediately widened.
Whoa.
It wasn't even a bedroom. This was 100% committed to all things streaming and gaming. Front and center was a large screen, and a very comfortable looking couch 10 feet from it, with a polished oak coffee table in between. From the controllers, microphone, boom arm, and webcam, Sunset knew a streaming setup when she saw one.
Pony Station 4.
Sunset read the lettering on the white console just below the television screen.
Surround sound? Not bad at all. What are we playing tonight? A crazy fantasy sports game called Pony League?
Pip answered, grabbing the remote control and turning on the entertainment center.
Sounds vague enough to be anything,
the unicorn commented, as she took a seat next to the Pegasus, who handed her the second controller. It was much closer to an arcade fighting stick and buttons than the ergonomic controllers that she had been using, but she immediately figured that these were easier to use with hooves. Pip held down the center button on her set of controls, and the pony station lit up, as did the screen.
Don't worry, I'm not scheduled to start the stream for another 20 minutes. That's enough time to get into the game, give you a quick tutorial, and get dinner ordered,
Pip said, logging into her account. Even with a new control pad, Sunset was fairly confident. She picked up new games fairly quickly. Complete collapses on her part like Super Squirrel Climb with Fluttershy were pretty rare, and a hoot for her audience when they happened. With Pip logged in, a blue-tinted main menu appeared, and she selected Pony League. As the splash screens came up, it was accompanied by a seriously catchy techno beat, which dropped as the main menu came up. Pip quickly selected multiplayer, and let Sunset create her pony avatar.
There used to be just Pegasus characters, but in the months following reunification, the developers patched in the 2 other races. So, make whatever you like,
the princess told her. Over the next few minutes, Sunset carefully recreated herself in the game, a unicorn with a crimson and yellow mane.
I did the same thing,
Pip told her as she selected her character. Sunset saw that it was a near-perfect recreation of her. With their character selected, the game proper loaded in, and Sunset found their avatars in a large open arena.
Soccer?
Sunset asked.
Even better. Ridiculous soccer.
Pip replied, as Sunset noticed the oversized ball that a half-dozen ponies could fit into.
The goal is simple. Get the ball into your opponent's goal. Things get complicated with your character's movements.
Sunset moved her on-screen avatar around a bit and jumped towards the ball.
What are those things on the hooves?
Sunset asked.
Oh, the complicated part.
Pip answered, jumping her character up into the air. But as she was in midair, plumes of fire erupted from her hooves, and she took off higher into the air.
Whoa, jet power hooves? Seriously?
Sunset asked, trying it herself, her unicorn avatar taking off into the sky.
I told you it was ridiculous. Back when this game was developed, Pegasi couldn't fly. So this was a creative alternative. Right now, it's just you and me for practice. But match-made games are 3v3 or 4v4, and things get fairly hectic.
It took a few minutes for Sunset to get the hang of flying with jet-powered legs, but she felt she had the basics down. Pip made sure that all the cameras and microphones were receiving correctly before she and her new friend went live. Just as there was a knock on the door, signaling that dinner had arrived, Pip's phone also went off, vibrating on the coffee table.
You're popular tonight.
Sunset commented, as Pip got up to answer the door.
Are you kidding? This is actually kind of a quiet night because I've turned on limited notifications. So, the only ones I get are from my personal contacts.
The princess replied, as she opened the door and greeted the server.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much.
Anytime, Your Highness. Enjoy the stream tonight. The server replied with a polite bow. Pip returned to the coffee table, wheeling up a cart next to it, then set down 2 steaming, bubbling cheese pizzas, along with plates, napkins, and individual bottles of soda. Sitting back down, she picked up her phone and checked the notification that she'd received.
All right. Looks like Sunny and Sprout are going to make it up here in time for our concerts. Think you'll be able to put on a show?
Pip asked, swiping her phone screen.
I guess we'll find out during rehearsal tomorrow, won't we?
Sunset asked in return. Pip smirked at her.
Well, now that we're ready to eat and game, let's put on a show right now.
With that, Pip pressed a bright red button on her phone screen, and Sunset saw the red light on the webcam below the TV light up.
Good evening, Pipsqueaks. Who's ready to thrash some noobs in Pony League? I know I am, and I've got a new friend along for the ride. Let's play.
Man, nothing beats a streamer duo. And when it comes to Sunset and Pip, you know you're in for a good time. Anyway, let's get on to our gracious donators. Top donators are 630, Only One Thing, Ceru, Orion, and IronSky. Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin, Rolan, Stu Hex, Swordbrother, and Mordred, Omicron, Lyrae, Moonslight 9852, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Ridesoul, Baddest Waffle, Shadowman, Luigi 88, Chancer Crest, Big Smoke 369, Jesse Smith, Bobcat JJF, and many more lovable people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.